There's an increasing threat to the education of our children. Every year, 98.5% of public school students prepare for, often months in advance, a series of standardized tests that are intended to measure school performance. When the idea of standardized testing emerged, the intention was to strive for a small group of privileged youth to be held at an exclusive standard. In the 1400s, payment by result became an effective strategy, according to Felk in his book Defending Childhood. This coupled student test performance with government funding. In 1872, W.E. Hearn said that the assumption behind this strategy was that if teachers taught correctly, then pupils would surely learn, and examinations would ensure that students received proper instruction. This payment by result was used through the 19th and 20th centuries and is still in place in the U.S. today. This type of measurement creates high-stakes test environments. The negative effect of high-stakes testing starts with an inaccurate measure of teachers in schools and places inappropriate pressure upon students, both of which ultimately disrupt the natural flow of learning. The intention of standardized testing is to measure teacher and school performance based on students' performance. This standardized testing unfortunately encourages teachers to teach the test. Teachers will often change the curriculum and spend more time on test material than other important educational material. This might increase test scores, but doesn't necessarily show that students understand or can even apply the material that's been taught. The No Child Left Behind Act was enacted in 2001. This stated that teachers in schools would be held accountable for absolute levels of student success. This is also known as adequate yearly progress, according to the paper written in 2007 entitled State's Evidence. Some schools made substantial organic progress with struggling students. However, they were still flagged because students weren't shown to be proficient based on those standardized test scores. This led to states developing their own standards. In fact, some states even lowered the bar in order to receive the government funding as opposed to educating their students. In a lecture conducted for TED Talks, Stimberg says that unfortunately, standardized testing measures a small portion of the overall curriculum and the skills and information needed for students to become productive adults. When a small portion of the curriculum is measured, teachers often change the curriculum to encompass that of which bases their salary or their government funding, as opposed to the needs of the student. This disrupts the natural flow of learning. A curriculum is meant to encompass all the skills needed for students to survive as adults. Sciences, the arts, or even critical thinking aren't incorporated into the standardized testing. Children need an enriched, cooperative, whole curriculum in order to foster and flourish the learning process. All children learn differently, and they all require an individualized learning approach with an emphasis on creativity and critical thinking. This less authentic learning environment that's created through the high-stakes testing removes the chances of an organic learning process and increases student memorization. The natural flow of learning is depicted in this visual from Carrollton College. Teachers will explain new material, students will learn and apply new knowledge, engage in the learning process, and then explore the new information that they've been taught. Learning and gaining understanding is a hands-on, cooperative, explorative act. Memorization isn't understanding, and understanding is essential for comprehension and success. But this repetitive, non-organic learning environment with an emphasis on high-stakes testing causes a skew in the natural flow of learning. An emphasis on one test throughout the entire year creates severe frustration and anxiety with students, and high-stress environments inhibit the learning process immensely. Students have to feel comfortable and included in their learning process in order to thrive, and high-stakes testing can be detrimental to a child's learning experience. Not only do standardized tests omit essential skills for children's development, but they put an exceeding amount of pressure on performance just for a single test. Based on the results of these tests, teachers and schools are judged. Standardized tests were put in place to ensure that all children get a quality education. But this cycle of this test-driven curriculum that results from standardized tests prevents the education necessary for students to grow into successful adults.